In addition to the broader concept of socialization, performance is a key way by which we learn about and tell others about our own gender and sexual identities. Gender, which up to this point we've talked about largely as an identity category, is in reality all about performance. Gender theorist Judith Butler is well known for saying, "Gender is not what you are, gender is what you do." Performance is one of the primary ways that we construct what gender and gender categories mean. In this cartoon, a woman asks a drag queen, "Why do you dress like a woman?" And the drag queen returns the exact same question, "Why do you dress like a woman?" Both people in this image are performing a gender identity. This is to say that when we are performing our gender, we're performing pre-existing expectations about how we should do that. And whether or not we conform to or challenge gendered expectations, we are always creating gender in real time. There is no natural or normal way to be a woman or be a man. These are performances that are always strategic, whether or not we consciously recognize them as such. Every day, you make dozens of tiny choices that, whether or not you realize it and whether or not you mean to, indicate the gender identity into which you have been socialized. These choices are deeply contextual, dependent on time and place. They may even be dependent on who you're with. Think about those different sites of socialization and the code switching that you may do when you change your behavior and your expectations between them. The way you perform your gender identity on a date may be different from how you do so with your family or at work. Judith Butler also coined this key term performativity, which refers to the repeated performance of gender, which actually constructs the physical condition of sex and of gender while simultaneously hiding that construction. It's that second part of this quote that I want to emphasize here. We construct what gender means by doing gender every day, those dozens of little choices that I mentioned. But because these are performances and expectations to which we are socialized from birth, we rarely notice their impact on us, their impact on others, or their role in the very creation of gender as a concept. That's why we talk about the hidden construction of gender. Even in resisting or going against gendered norms and expectations, we still reinforce and reproduce the normative expectations that exist. I realize that this is incredibly complicated, and a lot of the time, gender and the gendered decisions that we unconsciously make are just background noise to the rest of our lives. But the role of performance is central to understanding how gender and sexuality work in our lives. One way that we learn about gendered performance is through gender coding, which refers to the attribution of certain traits or behaviors to masculine or feminine categories. For many people, even the most innocuous behaviors or affectations, they're categorized based on this gender coding. I've been trying to think of an example to illustrate this point, and I think I've thought of a good one. Like many people, my husband grew his hair much longer in quarantine and has started to wear it in a man bun style. I've been calling my husband's hair a man bun for months, and it wasn't until I started thinking about this lecture that I began to question, why am I calling this a man bun? If I put my hair in the exact same style, I wouldn't call it a woman bun, I would just call it a bun. And that's because to most people in our society, including me, that particular hairstyle is coded as female. Even in resisting gendered expectations, the choices that are available to those who want to push back against strict masculine and feminine categorizing still reinforce the very norms that they are attempting to resist. For example, if a man were to wear a dress, this is an excellent example of resisting gendered expectation around clothing. However, the very act of choosing a dress to wear as an act of resistance reinforces the dominant cultural expectation that dresses are not for men. If we think back to last week's lecture on norms, normal, and normativity, and on the definition of heteronormativity, you'll know that heteronormative expectations hold that Women are and should be attracted to men, and men are and should be sexually attracted to women. Heteronormativity, in this sense, attempts to impose social limits on both sexuality and gender performance. Being attracted to men becomes one of those traits coded as female or feminine, while being attracted to women is coded as masculine. Where does this leave men attracted to other men and women attracted to other women? Women who are sexually and romantically attracted to other women are often perceived or portrayed as being more masculine, and vice versa, meaning that women who perform their gender identity in ways that are interpreted as masculine are often perceived to be women who are sexually and romantically attracted to other women, i.e., lesbians. The same is true for gay men. Portrayals of gay men in popular media have often been dominated by men who perform a gendered identity that is considered to be more effeminate. Again, this is because of the ways heteronormativity falsely links sexuality and gender. For your journal entries this
weekend
and for our class discussions
next week,
I'm going to ask each of you to choose some small act of gendered performance that contradicts your own gender and or sexual identity. We'll talk about this a little bit more in class, but this activity should get you thinking more consciously of the things that you do every day to perform and reinforce your gender identity, both for yourself and for the other people in your lives. These performances, these expressions, are not the result of gender, but what creates gender itself.